Hello and welcome back to another episode of the African Football HQ podcast. I'm Malek and I'm joined by Ed Dove, and it is finally the international break. After almost a year of waiting for African football to return, it is time, and we have some very interesting matchups to analyze. Belgium will be playing the Ivory Coast. We'll see the Afcon semifinal matchup of Nigeria-Algeria, a World Cup rematch of Japan versus Cameroon, in addition to Morocco versus Senegal, Nigeria versus Tunisia, Algeria-Mexico, and Morocco versus the DR Congo. So many exciting matchups, and I can't even say all of them. But Ed, what are some of the storylines that are exciting for you?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say it's so great to have international football back because it's been so long. Teams haven't played since late 2019. Obviously, since then, the world has changed. International travel has become a whole different ballgame. International sport, local sport has become hugely complicated. So the fact that we've got teams together again, the regroupement of players with their national teams, and some kind of African competition on an international level, it's encouraging. Obviously, there are health concerns, but for me, the kind of overarching thing here, the positive thing here, is that international football is back, and it's been so long. But I think, Malek, it's worth remembering the ongoing impact of coronavirus. We've got players who are absent from these matches because either they can't travel from their countries, or that they've recently had positive tests, or they're isolating. And also, against the backdrop, Tunisia will play Nigeria, for example, against the backdrop of the Tunisian government recently increasing the restrictions on competitive sports in the North African countries. So while this is something of a return to form, there's still a long way to go, and I think it's important to remember that.
Yeah, it's also noteworthy to mention that a lot of the matches are being played in Europe. Some are being played in Turkey, Portugal, and the Netherlands, in addition to Austria. And for that reason, some teams have been forced to pick foreign-based players only, which has changed up the squads for a lot of these nations, obviously.
Yeah, it also means that for the players, they don't have that joy of returning home and maybe going back to their old neighbourhood, seeing their family that they would usually have for international breaks. Also, Uganda made the interesting decision to go to Dubai, where they're not actually playing a match, where they just have a training camp. So I was quite intrigued by that decision.
It's also very interesting to see a lot of players, some even on the same team, some are actually returning to Africa, while some are being forced to stay in Europe. So it's going to be interesting to see upon return if there are any positive tests or they're forced to go into isolation. Could we see a player miss like 3 straight weeks of football just because of the international break?
Well, let's certainly hope not. But obviously, this kind of gathering of people from all kinds of different places in the world into one place, obviously, it brings with it some massive risks and concerns. But you just hope that guys playing at that level, also passing through airports, etc., will be tested rigorously.
One of the most exciting matches I'm looking forward to seeing is Belgium versus the Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast obviously has an extensive history of winning at Afcon and even a little bit at the international level, but I'm very excited to see them take on one of the best teams in the world in Belgium. Obviously, Ivory Coast are growing in a bit of a new generation. They have some really exciting players, but Belgium, on the other hand, are a whole nother level. So I'm really excited to see how these two teams face off.
Yeah, it'll be a really good test for Patrice Baumel, the head coach of Ivory Coast, formerly assistant to Hervé Renard when the Elephants won the Africa Cup of Nations. Then he was by his side with Morocco. And now he gets to stand on his own 2 feet as the head coach of Les Elephants. And I think it'll be fantastic to see whether he can be a number one, whether he can bring the experience he has had as number 2 to bear as a head coach. We saw with Sven Vandenbroek, who won the Afcon as Hugo Bruce's assistant with Cameroon, that he then struggled to translate that to a successful career as a number 1 with Zambia. So hopefully Baumel can succeed with the Ivory Coast. And obviously he knows Ivory Coast well. One of his first decisions was to recall Gervinho to the squad, still going strong now in his mid-30s. And I think it'll be fascinating to see both how Gervinho does and how Baumel does as Ivory Coast head coach.
Any other matches you're looking forward to seeing?
Well, I was really excited to see Nicolas Nkulu return for Cameroon. He won the AFCON with Cameroon in 2017, scoring in that final. Both him and Vincent Aboubakar, both of whom netted in that final victory over Egypt. I don't know if you remember that one, Malek. Both of them have been recalled to the squad. They were in the original 32-man list, but then they dropped out when Antonio Conceição reduced his list to 24, which is a bit of a shame. But in terms of Conceição, the replacement for Seedorf, I'm really looking forward to seeing how his team look, whether Cameroon over the next 18 months, whether they will be this dysfunctional team that we've come to expect, or whether he can get the most out of this very talented array of players. And I think there definitely is some talent there. You look at Ganago of Lens, recently linked to Real Madrid. He scored the winner against PSG. It'll be fascinating to see whether he can start making his mark as one of the best African strikers of his generation. And there's also guys in there like Zambo Anguissa who maybe have a bit of a point to prove after not getting the transfer they perhaps hoped for during the off-season.
Yeah, a lot of interesting players there. A lot of players who've been excelling in Europe this past season. But one of the main storylines regarding Cameroon's international break that I'm looking forward to is the rematch of the 2010 World Cup of Japan versus Cameroon almost 10 years ago. Ed, do you have any knowledge on what Keizuki Honda is up to nowadays?
Well, yeah, I remember that the 2010 World Cup, which was a miserable episode for Cameroon. I mean, there have been quite a lot of them, unfortunately. I think were they the first team eliminated in both the 2010 and the 2014 World Cup, which is dire. At least there was no infighting in 2010, I guess. But that was a real shame. You look at that 2010 Cameroon generation, and there was an awful lot of quality established players in that team who weren't able to bring it all together as a unit. And the promise that Cameroon showed during the first half of the last decade, by 2010, by 2014, it had completely withered away. And I think even to 2017, really, there was still the kind of remnants of that generation, which was still there. Whereas now it is really a whole new crop. Seedorf's gone. We have a whole new generation, I think, really taking root. They are an African giant, and they really need to start showing it.
You don't feel like I kind of feel like they've taken a step down since their 2017 AFCON win. There are some players excelling, but I feel like some of that core isn't really there, or they're not at the same level as they once were.
That's right, but I think that the 2017 AFCON win was a massive anomaly. Like, that team were on the brink of group stage elimination at that tournament after struggling against, I think it was Guinea-Bissau. They required Sebastian Siani to slam home a late winner or an equaliser, I think it was, to even avoid a bitter humiliation against Guinea-Bissau. And I think that tournament, there were some great performances, memorably against Ghana in that semi-final. I remember being there in Port-Gentil, and the counter-attacking play of Basagog and of Mukanju was sensational on that evening. And but I do think that performance, that tournament, almost papered over the cracks. This is a team that have really been struggling to get things right. For a start, they've been struggling to get their best players on the pitch together. When was the last time you saw Joel Matip and Nicolas Nkulu together in the heart of the defence for Cameroon? It's been an awfully long time. And I think really that whole crop, the problems the baggage that accompanied that generation, Seedorf wasn't the man to sort it out. I don't think Conceição is, but I hope that at least with 2 tournaments upcoming, with an intense schedule, there can be something of the togetherness about them. And hopefully it all starts with this international break. Now we are going to focus on 2 of Africa's biggest nations, Nigeria, the Super Eagles, and the African champions, Algeria. They happen to meet each other this weekend, and there is also an intriguing battle between Algeria and Mexico in an international matchup that I know you are particularly looking forward to, Malek.
Yeah, it's one of the matchups I'm most excited about, the African champions versus the North American champions. Unfortunately, both sides are not at full strength. Mexico is going with a majority local-based squad, if not entirely, while Algeria are missing a few key players due to injury, namely Youssouf Attal, who was injured at the beginning of the league season, unfortunately. But as for the matchup, Jamel Belmadi is one of the best managers in Africa, if not in the world, and the squad that they've had from AFCON has largely been retained, and I believe some players have been improving a lot. And Mexico, on the other hand, they don't have Raul Jimenez, one of their main strikers, but they're a very experienced side, especially Liga MX. I would say is a much better level than any of the African leagues, unfortunately. So it's going to be a very exciting matchup. 2 sets of players that we've never really seen come against each other before. So I'll definitely have my eyes peeled on that.
You say Algeria have retained their AFCON squad, which by and large they have. However, I was concerned at the time of the AFCON, even before the rescheduling of the upcoming tournament, that this was already a squad who were 28, 29, 30, even early 30s, a lot of the key members of this squad. And it really felt to me like that was the peak for this side. And had there been an AFCON coming up just 2 years afterwards, maybe that togetherness could have seen them through to another strong finish. However, with the delay and with a few of these guys like Slimani comes to mind, maybe in a weaker position than he was at the time of the 2019 AFCON, I just question whether we have seen the best of that team already and whether they really can build on that success.
There are some exciting names in this Algeria squad, like Mohamed Faris, who recently moved to Lazio, Adlan Guediora, an experienced head, still in there, and Ismail Benassar, coming off a great season with AC Milan. But they are going to be facing against Nigeria, a rematch of the 2019 AFCON semifinal, which ended in tears for Nigeria, if you do recall, Ed. What are you expecting to see from this game?
Well, I think it's not going to be a full-strength Nigeria team. There are some massive absentees, both in terms of players like Igalo, Obi Mikel, Victor Moses, who have stepped away from the side in recent years, but also the likes of Ndidi and Osimhen, who are absent for this international break. Osimhen, obviously, there was the issue with coronavirus at Napoli, and Ndidi's picked up an injury which could keep him sidelined for several months. So that's a massive change in the kind of Nigeria team we've begun to get used to seeing over recent years, but it represents an opportunity for some of the side's newer faces, some of the younger players to come in and make an impact. I'm particularly excited to see hopefully debutants, Chidera Ejuke and Cyril Dessers. Both of them were meant to make their debuts back in March, and that obviously didn't happen because those games were postponed due to coronavirus. Now, finally, they get their chance to step into the squad, to show what they can do. And with Osimhen out, I think Dessers could even start, and he's a player who can make a big impact. Both of these guys enjoyed fantastic seasons in the Netherlands last term. Since then, they've both secured transfers, which you and I have debated on African Football HQ, whether or not they were the right move, whether or not they are the good move. But I think that it all boils down now to the Super Eagles, and it is the time for these guys to demonstrate that they can be big contributors to Gunnar Orr's squad.
I kind of feel like Algeria and Nigeria kind of boats passing in opposite directions. Nigeria, they're kind of on the ups. A lot of their players are improving a lot. And while there are exceptions on both sides, I feel like Algeria is on a bit of a downturn, like you previously mentioned. So if you are going off that trend, you might expect a Nigeria win, but they, like you said, they are missing a lot of key players. So I would predict, if I had to, an Algeria win. I'm especially excited to see Said Benrahma and Riyad Mahrez play together if that does happen.
Yeah, but you can be excited about those two, but you can't really be more excited about those guys than about the likes of Chukwueze, for example, taking to the field. Because this guy, I mean, particularly in an African environment where he's likely to have a bit more space, things are going to be a little bit less cagey, a bit more open, perhaps. I think he can enjoy some major joy against that Algerian backline.
All right. Well, to assess the strength of the Algeria and Nigeria collectives, we're going to do a combined five-a-side team of the two nations if all players were available. I think this will be very fun, Ed. Are you ready to start?
Can't wait. Okay,
so we're going to go with a one goalie, one defender, two midfielders, and a forward. Goalkeeper, I don't think there's too much debate to this, is there, Ed?
No, and this actually highlights a problem area for Nigeria at the moment, because heading into the game against Algeria, Daniel Akpeyi is absent, Francis Zohu is absent. Even those two were considered a problem area, even with those two, goalkeeper was considered a problem area following the departure of Vincent Nyema, the leukemia diagnosis and the retirement of Carly Keme. Neither Zohu or Akpeyi have really convinced. Neither of them are here. So it's going to be Dele Alampassu or Matthew Yakubu, who are going to be the contenders, Maduka as well, who are going to be the contenders for the starting berth. And none of them, I think you'll probably agree, I'm afraid to say, none of them can compete with Rice and Bolly for Le Fennec, who has been there, done that, and probably deserves the starting spot in our five-a-side team.
Yes, all right. So he's there. We're going to move on to defense. This was a bit contentious. Nigeria doesn't have that many great defenders at the moment. And I've decided to go with the fullback at center back in Rami Bentabani of Algeria and Borussia Mönchengladbach.
Well, hold on. I mean, Nigeria maybe don't have any world class defenders, but I don't think you can say they don't have any good defenders. I mean, there is immense competition at centre back. Guys like Semi Ajayi, Leon Balogun, Trusticon, all of whom have made moves. Ola Aina has also returned to the Premier League with Fulham. So there's a lot of quality there. I don't think you can really say that they don't have any good defenders. Perhaps, yeah, admittedly, there's no one quite on Ben Sabani's level right now. Maybe the best competition for him would actually be Issa Mandi of Real Betis, another Algerian who was tentatively linked with a move to Liverpool during the off-season. But actually, I would go, and I want you to consider this. I would actually go for Wilfred Ndidi. He's absent for this match, and he is normally a midfielder. But didn't he demonstrate in that first game for Leicester this season just how his skill set lends himself to playing in the centre of the defence? So I think Ben Sabini's got an error in him, but I would put my house on Ndidi doing a good job.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Ndidi's an excellent player, and he definitely has all the capabilities to be a great center back. And I think could be more easily translatable on the international level than doing it for Leicester. So I think that because he's done it for Leicester, he'd be able to do it more easily for Nigeria, in my opinion, considering he's one of the more experienced and, I have to say, more quality players in that Nigeria backline. I'm going to have to give it to Ben Sabani, though, just considering he has actually played in defense. And I would argue that going up, he might provide more than Ndidi. Do you agree?
I don't know. Ndidi's a great athlete, and earlier in his career, he's played in different areas. He has played in a more progressive role on the right flank. So I'm not convinced by that one. But if Ben Sabini goes in defence, then maybe we need to consider Ndidi in midfield. I worry that I want a few more attacking players now, I think.
Okay, I'm going to stick down with Ben Sabini because I'm not too confident in my midfield choice. So we'll stick with Ben Sabini in defense. 2 out of 2 Algerians so far into midfield.
Well, one and a half. Midfield, I am going to go. I'm afraid it's between 2 Algerians for me. I'd love to have Youssef Attal of Nice in there just for his kind of vertical running down the right flank, what he offers in wide areas. My other option would be Benacer, because kind of as a midfield controller, someone with great close control, great technique, great vision, a good little battler as well. I think Benacer would be great on a 5-a-side pitch. So I'd probably, push comes to shove, I'd probably go Benacer in there.
I want to highlight Joe Aribo. He's a bit of a long shot for this team, but he's had such a great season with Rangers. And actually recently, a young Rangers fan cut his hair to look like Aribo, which I think is an incredible feat that transcends football. And
I'm actually put him in this team. Similar with my hair, to be honest, to look a bit like Joe Aribo. I am a big fan, and he does bring goals to the table, which is maybe something that Benacer doesn't. But I think Aribo, you're maybe looking at a year's time, maybe 18 months' time. I don't think right now, really, he can compete with Benacer for the midfield role in our 5-a-side team.
I feel like on a 5-a-side pitch, like you need that quick movement. I think he arguably might be the best of that out of any of these players.
Yeah, but Benacer's movement, like the way he can turn away from a marking midfielder, dart through the middle of the pitch, the way he can knit things together, his anticipation. I mean, he would be lethal in tight spaces. I think I'm pulling rank on this one. I think I'm going for Benacer. You had Ben Sabani. I want Benacer for this one, even though I realize I'm talking out another Nigerian from our team.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next position, more of an attacking midfielder forward position. There's not much debate for this one, is there, Ed?
Ahmed Musa.
Wow. I mistakenly called him 35 years old on a previous edition of the podcast. I'd like to apologize for him.
Wouldn't like that. Yeah, Ahmed wrote to us. He was furious with that. Absolutely furious.
Could he do it on a close-sided pitch against Ndidi and Ben Sabini?
Yeah, of course. He just puts his walking stick down to one side, puts the Zimmer frame off, and he's absolutely fine. No,
27, Ed.
Jokes aside, I think we are going to stick with the Leicester theme, but I think probably both of us would agree that Riyad Mahrez is the man for this role.
Yeah.
I think, sadly, Musa wasn't able to eclipse or even come close to competing with him for impact at Leicester, sadly. So maybe, what about a bench role for Musa? Or like a manager role? Touchline coach?
Yeah. Prodigy coach coming up the ranks.
No mention for Iwobi. You're just discarding Iwobi.
No, absolutely not. Joe Aribo should be in there over Iwobi.
You not see him against Fleetwood?
No, I did not. I'm not watching Fleetwood United in my spare time.
It was almost as though he was playing against like a League One side. He was on a different level from them.
Okay. We're gonna go with Riyad Mahrez. That is now 3 out of 4 positions going to Algeria. Forward, however, what do you think? Andy Delort?
Shortlisted. Delort is shortlisted. Slimani at times last season, maybe shortlisted. He didn't score that many fewer goals than Victor Osimhen in Liga. But I think probably we're going to both agree that we want Victor Osimhen leading the line there.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyone else from an Algerian point of view that could? Bounedjah, for example, he scored more during 2019 than Osimhen did.
Yeah, he scored a lot more than a lot of players. So I'm not sure how much to look into that.
Well, you're slagging him off. I mean, how many of you ever scored an Afcon final?
None yet, but if I did play in the Qatari League, watch out.
I don't think you'd be scoring like 60 plus goals.
Well, Victor Osimhen, the transfer fee he commanded might argue for his spot in the team, but playing wise, he's excellent, and I think he's a level above all of these other attacking options, isn't he, Ed?
Yeah, I think so. I think potential wise, definitely. I think maybe on current form, you'd look at some of Algeria's strikers earlier in their career, but I think right now, I think it's got to be Osimhen. All
right, so that concludes the team. Goalkeeper, we have Rice and Bulhi. Defense, Rami Ben Sabaini. Midfield, Ismail Benacer.
I'm not sure. I'm not fully accepting no place for Ndidi.
I'm not hearing it now. He's injured, man.
We said if everyone's fit.
Next midfield position, we have Riyad Mahrez, and then leading the line, Victor Osimhen. Thank you for contributing your Nigerian picks.
With Ahmed Musa manager.
Yes.
So that's like three Nigerians, 3 Algerians, basically. 50-50 split.
We don't even know if Musa would pick Osimhen. He might still be jealous of how well he's doing.
I think Musa might pick Iwobi.
Oh boy. All right.
I'll ask him.
This Iwobi agenda needs to stop right now. We'll move on to Nigeria, who are taking on Tunisia. Another interesting matchup. Tunisia haven't had the success that their North African counterparts Algeria have had, but still a very strong squad, especially considering they have a large bulk of their players coming from Esperance, who have won the Champions League twice in a row. Ed, once again, what are you looking forward to in this game?
I'm looking forward in this match, particularly to see how Nigeria's youngsters can handle the pressures that accompany playing against Tunisia. A very unique threat, I think, a very unique test in an African environment, and it'll be a real examination, I think, of the team that Gernot Rohr puts out there. With Nigeria as well, I mean, you could say it's just a friendly, so it doesn't really matter what the result is. But it really does, actually, in Nigeria. It really does matter that you're not being beaten by these big nations, and therefore, I think there is consequence in how they perform, how they handle this test. So yeah, it'll be one to watch. Won't be not as glamorous perhaps as the Algeria game, but in some ways it could be a more real examination of the team.
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of cases Tunisia aren't glamorized in the way that Algeria are or other North African countries are. Not too sure why, but might be because they don't have the star power. You know, Wapi Khazri is back in the team. I'm not sure how much that will help against Nigeria's squad, but I'm also looking forward to seeing Ali Maloul and Ferjani Sassi, who've been starring in the Egyptian Premier League for Al Ahly and Zamalek, respectively. So there's a lot of different storylines to look at this game through. We're joined now by Goal Africa Ghana correspondent Prince, who is here to talk to us about the Black Stars squad and their upcoming friendlies this window. On Friday, October 9th, they will play against Mali, and on Monday, October 12th, they will play against Qatar. Both very enticing friendlies, which will both be played in Turkey. So, Prince, I want to ask you, what are your general thoughts about their opponent selection? Why are they playing a nation like Qatar, for example?
Thank you very much. I think that these are very two important friendlies for the Black Stars, for very, very good reasons. First and foremost, we have a new man in charge of the Black Stars by way of CK Akuno. He was appointed as head coach of the Black Stars in January, but because of COVID, he has not had the chance to work with the Black Stars. He named a squad for a Sudan doubleheader in March, and of course, the games had to be rescheduled because of the COVID situation. So he has not had the chance to brief the team. And importantly, in coming November, Ghana gets to return to Afcon qualifiers, and it's very important that CK Akuno gets to work with the players for at least once before we go into an important games, a group of important games like the Afcon qualifiers. We're gonna be facing Sudan. So I think that it was more of a necessity that CK gets to play a game no matter the opponent, because it wasn't going to be the best thing for him to walk straight into a competitive game, especially when you have a chance to play a friendly game. Then, of course, also because this is the first time he's getting to meet a lot of new players, he's trying to get dual nationals to come into the Black Stars. And so he would need possibly more than one opponent to be able to give a good chance to all the new players that are getting invited into the team. So the GFA made it a point to get at least two opponents during this international break. The GFA initially announced that Ghana was going to be playing Mali and Equatorial Guinea. A day afterwards, Equatorial Guinea pulled out because of situations with travel. And so the GFA had to get new opponents in the shortest possible time, and they settled on Qatar. So I think that for the GFA, it wasn't so much about the quality of opposition as it is about getting some friendly games for CK Akuno to get to work with the players, to have a very fair feel of them, and to also start imparting his philosophy and other things into them before we get to play Sudan in November. But I think that also Mali are very worthy opponents. They are one of the strongest teams in Africa. They have a new generation that people are thinking that in a couple of years or in the 2 or 3 years, they will be possible African title contenders. So I think that in terms of the strength of the Malian side, nobody would have issues about them. They are very strong opponents and have a group of young players who are making waves in Europe, especially a lot of them in some of them in Red Bull Salzburg and in Germany with Hoffenheim and some other teams. And of course, Qatar, the host of the 2022 World Cup, they have been doing a lot of rebuilding to be able to not just host the world, but to be able to compete strongly. So I think that they are putting a lot of efforts in getting in getting a very strong team. So a friendly against Ghana for them will be a very good opportunity to test themselves against very credible opponents. So I think that by and large, looking at how you look at it, I think that the two opponents are going to be very strong candidates for the Black Stars. But most importantly, it will give CK Akuno a chance to work with the Black Stars for the first time before we get into competitive action in November.
Okay. So what are some of your quick thoughts on the squad? You know, there's some experienced heads like Andre Ayew, Jordan Ayew, but we can also see some debutants, can we?
Yes. So I think that a lot of talking point has particularly been around Alexander Jiku. He is one of the dual nationals called up. CK Akuno and the Ghana Football Association have said that they really want to broaden Ghana's talent pool with dual nationals. And of course, Tariq Lamptey of Brighton and Hove Albion in England and Alex Nketiah of Arsenal have been the biggest priorities. But of course, the other guys like Alex Jiku, whom the Ghana Football Association has been talking to for a while. And so he gets to have his first crack with Ghana. He's 26 years of age, plays for Strasbourg. And I think that he will be a very good addition to the Black Stars. But at least it gets to show that the GFA actually intend on bringing a lot more dual nationals as they have been talking about lately. Then there's also Kamaldeen Sulemana, who plays for Netherlands in Denmark. He's been hailed as the next Mohamed Kudus. Mohamed Kudus left Netherlands for Ajax, and he's been an instant hit, and Netherlands have been trying to get an instant replacement for him. And Kamaldeen has been phenomenal for them so far since he broke through, getting to the end of last season and early this season. So he's also one person that is really exciting a lot of people. And then you have also Yakubu Mohamed, who plays in Tanzania for Azam, also coming in. And I think that if you give a lot of people 100 opportunities to guest players that were going to make the squad for these upcoming games, nobody was going to mention him. And so obviously he getting to the squad is also pretty much surprising. And so I think all in all, it's really a squad that divides opinions. There are some very exciting prospects or people in the squad, and there are other people that people are really wondering how on earth they got to make their squad. But I think generally it's a good squad.
Okay. I want to talk to you about Thomas Partey. Obviously just moved to Arsenal. What does his move to the Premier League mean for Black Stars fans and for the national team?
I think that it's another topic that divides opinions in Ghana, because one section of the fan base really feel that Thomas Partey should be staying at Atletico Madrid because he has the trust of the coach, Diego Simeone. He also gets to play week in, week out, and he's somebody that people, or it's kind of established that he's a regular at Atletico Madrid. We cannot say the same thing for him coming to Arsenal. And I think that from a playing perspective, if you are Ghanaian, also looking at the fact that Partey is now deputy captain of the Black Stars, he's an integral member of the Black Stars on and off the pitch. You really want him to be getting as many games as possible. And so on that score, we really are not so sure. It's exciting because he's Ghanaian, he's playing in the biggest league, arguably the biggest league in the world, the most watched league. The EPL is the most watched football competition in Ghana. So he has that kind of pull on Ghanaians. So a lot of people are excited to see him play for Arsenal, but also people are not so sure how it's going to work out, whether he's going to be a hit like we saw with Michael Essien and Chelsea sometime back in 2005 when he joined them, or he's going to be one of those guys that is going to go in on a very high praise level, but over time he's going to struggle, and at the end of the day it would look like it was a wrong move. So it's really division of opinion of the populace in terms of what they make of the move. Others are also talking about his chances of winning a trophy, because Arsenal had been struggling to win major trophies, but of course they won 2 trophies recently. So yeah, there are questions about the pedigree of the trophies they won recently, but then of course there are still trophies they won. And so these are some of the questions people are also having about it. But I think all in all, people are excited, really, really excited. People really believe in his quality in Ghana, and we actually believe that he would make an impact. He would make an impact and follow in the footsteps of the like of Michael Essien.
Thank you very much for coming on, Prince. This is the African football analysis you will not see anywhere else. Be sure to check out Ghana play against Mali and Qatar this international break. I'm now joined by Goal Africa's East African correspondent Kiplagat Song to talk about some of the international friendlies that the East African nations will be playing in this window. We're going to start off with Kenya, your own country. What are your thoughts on their squad?
I think the squad is actually not as strong as many would have actually wanted to see, because the foreign players are not available for the match, and the local ones who are available for the match have not been active for the last 7 months or so, because the Kenya Premier League was cancelled, where the majority of players have been drawn since March. And before facing Zambia, they will have actually trained for 3 days, because the government only allowed them to train from Wednesday, Thursday, and the actual day of the match, that is Friday. So the unavailability of the foreign players has actually denied Coach Francis Kimanzi a larger pool of squad to pick his preferred stronger side to face Zambia on Friday. On the other hand, Zambia have actually quite a strong side, because they have picked foreign players from the local leagues and from the local leagues. And before facing Kenya, they will actually have played one friendly match, that is against the Flames of Malawi on Wednesday.
So as you said, the local players have been inactive since March, since the beginning of the COVID-19 outbreak. So with only 2 days of training, what are you expecting to see from them?
The best I can expect from the guys actually is a draw against the Chipolopolo of Zambia, because if they gave us as a country, if they gave the country a draw, then actually I think that would be the best results they will provide for us.
Okay, we'll move on to another East African country, Tanzania. Arguably a bit more of a local powerhouse in the region. They're going to be playing against Burundi. And compared to Kenya, they have a much more diverse squad, don't they? Combining local and foreign players.
Sure, Tanzania have a diverse squad, because they have a number of local players. And keep in mind that their captain, Bwana Samata, has already joined them. So that is an extra source of inspiration for them. Remember, Bwana Samata moved from Aston Villa to Turkey, and he has actually scored a brace in his second game. That means Coach Etienne Daragija will actually have a stronger squad that will face Zambia, and their greatest strength of source is that their players have been active for the past several months, because the 2019-20 league was cancelled. It resumed and ended, and the 2020-2021 league has also resumed. They have actually played 5 matches. That means the players are fitter for the game.
We saw a lot of drama last month between Simba and Yanga and a lot of the big Tanzanian clubs, kind of transfers, matches. But do you think any of that will impact the chemistry on the national team?
It has always not impacted the national team, because whenever players actually move from the club to the national team, they forget about their club rivalry. So I'm not actually expecting to see the club rivalry affecting the national side when they face Burundi.
Okay. And I just want to talk briefly about Mbwana Samata. Like you said, he moved from Aston Villa to Fenerbahce, and he's already scored. So I think this is a better move for the Tanzania national team in that their star man will be playing more. But in terms of him playing in a bit of a lower quality league, in the Turkish league, do you think that might hurt his ego or his ability a bit?
I think it might affect his form, because I know he wants to prove that, yes, I have moved from a bigger league to a smaller league, but my form remains, my effectiveness before goal remains as little as before. So I don't think that move actually would affect him in any big way.
Okay. All right. And we'll conclude with Uganda. They have no friendly scheduled, but they're doing a camp in Dubai. What are your thoughts on what's happening there? It's a bit confusing.
Yes, of course, it is a bit confusing, especially given that they have Afcon qualifiers, they have World Cup qualifiers, and they have CHAN coming. So taking a 10-day training camp to Dubai without identifying a strong opponent in the FIFA window actually draws a lot of questions than answers. But it is a gamble that might pay good for Coach Jonathan McKinstry, given that he has said that the camp is made to make players, the local players and the foreign-based players, gel together before before facing the condensed fixtures that are ahead of them. I think some of his players have been active in their foreign leagues, and the ones who have been at home have not been active. So it means he has a lot to work around to make sure that he comes up with quite a stronger squad for the upcoming fixtures.
So would you say this is more of a long game move from Jonathan McKinstry, in that they're not really looking to do something this window, but in terms of building the team for the future? Do you agree with that?
It is quite. He himself said that he's building a team, and for the past 1 year he has been here. He has shown that he's ready to build a team that consists of local players and some key foreign players like Dennis Onyango, Derek Nsimbambi, and of course Farouk Mia, who is in Turkey. So he's building a team that actually consists of foreigners or foreign-based players and the local players.
Okay. If you had to give one player from each country to watch out for this window, who would you say?
For Kenya, I will actually want to see how Josh Onyango is going to perform, because recently moved from Gor Mahia of Kenya to Tanzania's Simba, and he has actually been active there. He has started in all Premier League games. He started in all friendly games before the season began. So I actually would want to see how he's going to perform for the national side, given that he has actually shown he's still on top of his game, given how he has performed in Tanzania. For Uganda, I won't talk of any player now because they haven't confirmed any opponent for any opponent they might face during the FIFA break that is coming. But for Tanzania, I would actually want to see, I would actually want to watch and observe keenly how Bwana Samata is going to perform. I was actually impressed by how he played his second game for Fenerbahce and scored a brace. So I would want to see whether he will transfer the same top form from the club to the national side.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us, Kipwagat. It was a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure too.